Hey guys, welcome back to the Sleepy Science. Tonight we're stepping barefoot into a twilight corridor, the soft hallway between wakefulness and dreams. Outside, the wind hums against the window. Inside, your limbs are sinking heavier into the mattress. You're not quite asleep yet, not quite awake either. This is where the boundary begins to blur. The edge of consciousness softens like the corners of an old book. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it over there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie still, but something is shifting beneath your skin. Your breath slows, but your mind hasn't fully let go. This is where sleepwalking starts. Not in dreams, but in the strange murk just before dreams even begin. Imagine this space, like a corridor between two houses. One belongs to the day. You know it well. Bills, appointments, blinking screens. The other belongs to sleep. Vast, dream-soaked, softly irrational. But the corridor between them, that's the strange land of unconscious wanderings. Here's a quirky fact. People have been known to cook full breakfasts while asleep. Not just open the fridge, but flip eggs, set the table, and salt their food. No memory, no dream attached. Just a body performing its own quiet ballet while the mind is tucked away. It's uncanny, isn't it, that you could get out of bed, walk down the stairs, open the front door, and even leave the house without ever waking up, like you're a marionette, and someone else is pulling the strings. Someone silent, someone who lives in your muscles. Historically, philosophers and mystics believed these night movements revealed a second self, maybe even a shadow soul, taking walks while the main one slept. Plato mused that sleep loosened the rational soul from the appetitive beast. Freud, of course, had his opinions, but sleepwalking remains a riddle even modern science hasn't quite untangled. And yet it's surprisingly common. Children, especially between ages 5 and 12, often sleepwalk, shuffling down hallways with blank stares murmuring nonsense. Some adults do too, though society finds it more unsettling. Why does the same action from a child look curious, but from an adult, eerie? You feel your breath slow, further. Now, the weight of the blanket drapes across you like liquid dusk. In this softened state, your body is already preparing for sleep. Your heart rate dips. Temperature regulation changes. The brain starts cycling toward deeper waves, but occasionally something odd happens. A hiccup in the system, a misfire in the thalamus, the part that helps regulate sensory signals, might allow motor commands to leak through, even as consciousness goes dark. Your body starts to move while your mind remains at rest. Scientists still debate whether sleepwalking is a glitch or an ancient function left over from evolutionary days. Here's a strange tidbit. In 2012, a sleepwalker in Denver wandered into the backyard, climbed into a treehouse, and slept there through the night. The odd part, the ladder had been removed years ago. The man had no idea how he'd reached it, or how he'd descended by morning. You wonder now, if you ever slept walk, would your body retrace a memory? Would it visit childhood homes, old classrooms, favorite hiking trails? Could muscle memory be stronger than conscious choice, more loyal than awareness itself? Sleep researchers have watched this happen, eyes open but unseeing, arms extended, gait slow, sometimes robotic. It's not like the movies. There's no arms out Frankenstein shuffle, but it is otherworldly. Some sleepwalkers appear almost normal, others murmur, gesture, or freeze in place for long minutes before moving again. And the most eerie part, they often avoid obstacles. Their brains asleep, their minds absent. But somehow, their bodies remember to step over a cat, to stop before stairs, to open doors gently instead of crashing through. It's as if some ancient pilot buried deep in your nervous system takes the wheel when you're not home. There's one theory, quietly poetic, that sleepwalking is the body rehearsing life, practicing rituals, going through motions not to accomplish anything, but simply because it once did. A sort of memory migration. Your body, homesick for habit. And maybe that's why the most common sleepwalking activities are so ordinary: walking, eating, rearranging books, touching doorknobs, checking the fridge. your sleeping self, revisiting rituals like a ghost bound not by trauma but by repetition. You roll slightly now, as if your own body responds to the idea that you too are a creature of rhythm, that maybe you've done things in sleep you'll never know, things your conscious mind buried or spared you from remembering. A whisper of a thought comes, what else does my body know that I don't? It's an uncomfortable question, and yet oddly comforting, because if your feet can find the staircase in darkness, if your hand can twist the doorknob without light, maybe you're more than just awareness. Maybe you're something deeper, layered, complex, beautifully redundant. So you lie here now, not asleep, not fully awake, on the threshold, the corridor between worlds. And already the story of sleepwalking is taking its first quiet steps through you. You're still resting there, safe and still, but the idea is walking now, walking through your thoughts like a silent figure crossing a moonlit hallway. Sleepwalking, not just a medical term anymore, but something older, stranger. You feel the weight of its mystery, like fog pressing against a window. And now, let's move back, not just back in your mind, but back in time. Imagine ancient civilizations, long before EEG machines and sleep clinics, trying to understand this nighttime wandering. Picture a flickering oil lamp beside a clay tablet. In ancient Mesopotamia, some believed that sleepwalkers were being temporarily possessed by spirits of the underworld, allowed to walk the earth while the moon reigned. You breathe slowly, picturing desert winds rustling the tents of nomads who whispered tales of moon dancers, those who rose at midnight with blank eyes and steady feet. In ancient India, spiritual texts described turiya, the state between waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, a condition some now liken to parts of the sleepwalking trance. Even the Romans had their own language for it, somnambulare, to walk in sleep. They didn't fear it entirely. In fact, sleepwalkers were sometimes seen as divinely touched. A Roman senator once argued in court that his political rival couldn't be trusted, for he travelled in dreams like a ghost. Soned Siturid in Gavtwan. Of course, not everyone was so poetic. During the Middle Ages in Europe, sleepwalkers were often feared. Their blank stares and resistance to pain made villagers whisper of witchcraft. One disturbing record from 1327 describes a woman found walking barefoot on a rooftop in the snow, unharmed, eyes vacant. Some claimed she had been summoned by demons. Others said she was lost in love. The truth, like always, remained quiet. You exhale now. That image, bare feet on cold slate shingles under a silver sky, lingers with you. Strange how something so quiet can be so vivid. Here's a quirky fact. In 1846, a young woman named Mary Arnold was found sleepwalking nearly every night, singing old nursery rhymes as she set up her brother's chessboard perfectly with closed eyes. Every bishop, every night. When she awoke, she didn't know how to play the game. You wonder how much of you is memory stored not in the mind, but in the hands, the knees, the shoulders. Could your muscles remember what your brain forgets? Science has explored this question for centuries. In the 17th century, Descartes believed in dualism, the idea that the mind and body were separate. Sleepwalking, to him, was proof the body could act without thought, like a machine coasting in neutral. But centuries later, neurologists uncovered a twist. Sleepwalking doesn't happen during dreaming. That's right. You don't wander during REM sleep when vivid dreams play like movies in your head. You move during deep non-REM sleep when your brain is in its slowest rhythm, like a tide at full retreat. That's the paradox. The mind is quietest when the body stirs. And even today, researchers are still unsure exactly why it happens. Some think it's developmental. Most children grow out of it, like they grow out of night terrors. Others think it's hereditary. If both parents sleepwalk, their child has a 60% chance of doing it too. Imagine that, wandering at night written into your blood. There's a gentle humour to it too. In 2005, a man in London was found sleepwalking completely naked out of his hotel and into a business conference in the lobby. He was offered orange juice covered in a blanket and gently guided back to bed. The next morning, he didn't believe the concierge until he saw the CCTV footage. The man sip's only comment, "At least I wasn't late to the meeting." You smile faintly. Humour always finds a way in. It helps to soften the edges of the unexplained. And as your mind drifts deeper, You begin to imagine the sensation of sleepwalking. You're not in danger, just curious. Picture this: your body lifts. Your feet touch the floor with confidence you didn't know you had. You feel a softness in your joints, a loose rhythm in your spine. No fear, just motion. Like the body is pulling memory from some hidden shelf and replaying it through your limbs. Some scientists now suggest this is a kind of parasomnia, a sleep disorder where actions meant for wakefulness escape into sleep. It includes not just walking, but eating, driving, even emailing. Yes, there's a documented case of a woman composing and sending full emails in her sleep. Grammar wasn't perfect, but neither is it in most of our waking messages, let's be honest. Here's the unsettled debate. Are sleepwalkers conscious in some hidden, shadowy way? Do they feel? Do they dream? Most say no, but some report foggy fragments, an image of a hallway, a whisper of sound, a dim room full of lamps. Scientists can't agree. It's like chasing a shadow through mist. You curl slightly now, imagining your own body doing these things. Would your steps be slow, graceful? Would you pause to open the refrigerator, only to forget what you were looking for again? And now you're almost asleep, but not quite. This moment, this near sleep, it mirrors the mystery of the sleepwalker, still tethered to waking, but already floating into the dark. Your body quiet, your breath slow, your mind gently trailing behind like a curious balloon. The history of sleepwalking is full of myths and marvels, and yet what's most haunting isn't the stories of rooftops or tree houses or courtroom defenses. It's the ordinary ones. The quiet footsteps across a carpeted floor, the turning of a doorknob, the whisper of bare feet across tile. That, you realize, is where the mystery lives. Not in drama, but in the familiarity of it all. The way your body repeats its habits, the way it longs to move even when you're not watching. And so the mystery deepens, just as your breath deepens too. You're deeper now, not just in rest, but in immersion. There's a warm stillness in your limbs, like your body has floated free of decision-making. You're simply here, a quiet observer to the mysteries of yourself. And just as dreams weave fragments together, tonight we weave science into myth and back again. Let sips peek inside your brain. While you lie still, soft and safe, picture the brain's architecture glowing faintly in the dark, like a silent city viewed from above, towers of memory, bridges of emotion, highways of reflex. And in this city, something curious is happening. Certain districts go dark, others unexpectedly light up. That's what happens during a sleepwalking episode. Your brain isn't set off, it sits misaligned. Neuroscientists call this dissociation of brain states, a fancy phrase for a fascinating phenomenon. During deep non-REM sleep, the brain partially wakes. Not all at once, not like a light switch, more like certain rooms of a mansion flickering back to life one by one. The motor cortex, the part that tells your muscles to move, comes online. The frontal lobe, the decision maker, the moral compass, the planner, stays quiet. It's like having a car with the engine running, wheels turning, but no one behind the wheel. And yet somehow, the car doesn't crash. That sips the marvel. Even more marveling is this. Some sleepwalkers perform intricate tasks, cooking, painting, playing an instrument. There's a documented case of a woman who during sleep cleaned her entire kitchen, scrubbed it sparkling, right down to the baseboards. When she woke up, she assumed her partner had done it. He hadn't. He was still snoring in bed. It makes you wonder how much of your life is driven by patterns, habits, movements etched into your muscles, not your thoughts. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some sleepwalkers have even composed music. One pianist claimed he woke up one morning to find a melody scribbled on staff paper. He had no memory of writing it. He played it, and it made him cry. It felt, he said, like someone else was speaking through me in the night. The image lingers, notes written in the dark, hands moving with purpose, guided by something deeper than thought. But what exactly triggers these episodes? Sleep deprivation is one of the most common culprits. You know that feeling when you're overtired and your mind starts playing tricks. Shapes in the shadows, conversations that never happened. That same instability seems to increase the chance of these partial arousals, moments when your brain tries to rouse but doesn't quite make it all the way. Stress plays a role too. The more stress in your waking life, the more erratic your sleep becomes. One study showed that people experiencing major life events, divorces, job changes, grief, had a significant uptick in parasomnia behaviors. It's as if the body is trying to move through the weight of emotion, even in the dark. And let's not forget fever. In children, high fevers are strongly associated with sleepwalking. It's why so many kids are found wandering at night during illness, mumbling nonsense, eyes wide like lanterns. The medical term, confusional arousal. The poetic term, dream treading. You can choose whichever fits the moment. Now, an open question, can sleepwalking be dangerous? Yes, sometimes, though most episodes are harmless. Slow strolls through a hallway, brief murmurs from a kitchen. There are rare cases of injuries. People falling down stairs, wandering outside into cold weather, even attempting to drive. But here's where it gets murky. Some researchers argue that the brain knows just enough to avoid danger, that the same instincts that guide a toddler's first steps help guide the sleepwalker's path. Not perfect, but surprisingly capable. It's not all darkness and drama. There's gentle humor too. In one case, a woman was found by her roommate in the kitchen at 3:17 a.m., spooning peanut butter directly into her mouth with a spatula, eyes open, completely silent. When she woke up, she blamed the cat. The cat presumably had no comment. And the strangest part? She was allergic to peanuts. You smile softly now, not because it's absurd, but because it's oddly familiar. You've had moments of mechanical action in the day. You've driven somewhere and forgotten the drive. You've started writing a sentence and couldn't remember why. Sleepwalking is just that. Turned up a notch and moved into the dark. Here's something rarely mentioned. Not all sleepwalkers walk. Some talk, some cry, some simply sit upright in bed, staring into space with that hollow moonlit expression. There's a form of parasomnia known as sleep terrors, often misinterpreted as nightmares, but they're different. These episodes erupt from the body, screams, racing heart, gasps for breath without memory. The person wakes, sometimes standing, and doesn't know why. You wonder now, gently, how much of yourself is unknown even to you. Your body holds secrets. It moves on memory, on instinct, on patterns forged over years, and sometimes, when the guardrails of consciousness loosen, it does what it remembers to do. It climbs, it walks, it returns to the room it knew as a child. It opens the cabinet with the cookies it wasn't allowed to have. It seeks comfort, not because it's awake, but because you once did. Isn't that oddly beautiful? You breathe in. The air feels heavy with memory now. The limbs of your body feel distant but warm, like the echo of a dance you learned long ago. If you were to rise now, silently, and cross the room, you wouldn't be afraid. You'd feel pulled, as if the night itself were guiding you, hand in hand through your own story. And that's where we pause, not to end, but to drift, slowly, into deeper wondering. The mind may rest, but the questions do not. How much of you walks, even when you sleep? You drift further, not away, but inward, into that liminal hush where breath becomes the only rhythm, where shadows press gently against the borders of your awareness. You don't feel fear here, just a soft curiosity, a wondering. What is it that keeps you moving, even when your mind is meant to be still? Let's turn now toward childhood, because that sits where most sleepwalking begins. If you remember your younger self, small hands, soft pajamas, dreams that felt more real than mornings, you may also recall those strange nights, the ones where you were told you'd gotten up and walked, or maybe found in a different bed or standing in a hallway blinking at the light. Most children outgrow it, but not all. Scientists estimate that up to 17% of children experience sleepwalking episodes. That's nearly 1 in 5. Picture a classroom of little ones. 4 of them, at some point, may rise in the night without remembering. And in those moments, something ancient plays out. A ritual that goes back beyond memory, beyond modern sleep studies. Some researchers believe sleepwalking is a developmental hiccup. The growing brain misfires during transitions between sleep stages, and the wiring doesn't always stay synchronized. Like a symphony where the string section keeps playing after the conductor has dropped the baton. But others suggest something deeper, that this wandering is not a mistake, but a remnant, a relic, from a time when sleep was different. You see, sleep didn't always come in one long stretch. In many cultures throughout history, people slept in two phases, first sleep and second sleep, with a period of wakefulness in between. During this interlude, some prayed, some wrote, some wandered. What if childhood sleepwalking is an echo of that older rhythm, a biological memory embedded in tiny bodies waiting for silence to surface? It's a deliciously speculative thought. No one knows for sure, but isn't it lovely, the idea that a sleepwalking child might be reenacting an ancient dance under modern ceilings? There's a fact to nestle into children who sleepwalk often do so at the same time each night, typically during the first third of sleep, when deep non-REM sleep is most intense. That's when the body is hardest to wake, yet most primed for these nocturnal stumbles. Some parents describe their children's movements as zombie-like, but it's not frightening, it's ritualistic, like a spell cast by habit and time. One mother recalled finding her son standing beside the fridge, holding a slice of cheese in each hand like sacred offerings. He said nothing, just blinked, turned, and walked back to bed. The next morning, he had no memory. Here's a peculiar tidbit. In some cases, children can perform tasks so specific, so uniquely personal, that it seems their unconscious mind remembers preferences. One little girl would open her toy chest during sleep and line up her dolls in a perfect semicircle, something she never did while awake. Science can't fully explain it, but maybe science isn't meant to explain everything. Some things ask only to be witnessed. Of course, not all childhood sleep behaviors are so benign. Night terrors, a cousin of sleepwalking, are more intense. The child may scream, sweat, thrash. Their eyes are open, but they do not see you. It's harrowing, but it passes quickly, and they never remember. That's the strange mercy of these moments. They are vivid only to the witness. It raises questions that science still debates. For example, why don't children remember these events? Is memory simply bypassed? Or are these experiences stored somewhere else, under a layer we cannot yet access? What if, deep inside, we do remember, but not with words? Not all children sleepwalk, but all children dream, and some dreams blur with movement. There are stories, uncertain in their truth, but potent in their emotion, of children whispering secrets during sleep, names of imaginary friends, descriptions of places they've never seen. Is it just imagination, or something more? Some ancient cultures believed children were closer to the spirit world during sleep, that their night wandering wasn't just physical, it was metaphysical, that they were in touch with truths forgotten by adults. Whispered wisdoms passed between worlds. Science doesn't confirm this, but it doesn't fully deny it either. That sips the dance between certainty and wonder. Even today, there's no universal explanation for why some children sleepwalk and others don't. Genetics play a role. If a parent sleepwalks, the child is more likely to as well, but not always. Stress, fevers, irregular sleep. These can trigger episodes, but sometimes there's no cause at all. Just the moon, the silence, and the creak of tiny footsteps on wooden floors. Imagine, now, you are that child again. You lie still in your childhood bed. The room hums with the soft breath of night. A toy hums faintly from across the room. A battery dying. Outside, wind moves the curtains like ghosts learning to dance. And something stirs in you. Not fear, not excitement, just movement. You rise, not dramatically, but as if following a call just out of hearing. Your feet touch the floor. You walk. You turn the corner. You do not know where you're going, but your body seems to... Is it memory? Muscle? Instinct? Or something deeper? You'll never know, but someone might find you, gently steer you back to bed, cover your limbs again, kiss your forehead, and in the morning when the sun paints your pillow with gold, you'll have no idea what you did. But maybe you still feel it. A leftover softness in your knees, a faint warmth on your soles, the echo of something ancient, something patient, something still moving within you. You are not lost. You never were. You are simply returning to something familiar. The journey continues, quieter now, like a path through misted woods. Each step into this mystery feels softer than the last, as if your thoughts themselves are wrapped in wool. But even here, in this hush, your mind begins to wonder again what happens in the body during these moments of unconscious wandering. Let's drift into the mechanics. Sleepwalking, scientifically known as somnambulism, happens during the deepest stages of non-REM sleep, specifically stage 3, or what's sometimes called slow-wave sleep. It's during this phase that your brain is meant to be least active, but paradoxically, it's when your body can suddenly rise. You become, in essence, a sleep-divided being. Inside your skull, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making and awareness, is fast asleep, but areas responsible for motor control, like the cerebellum and motor cortex, stir to life. So you move, but without full consciousness, like a marionette pulled by forgotten dreams. It's one of the most profound paradoxes of the human body to be deeply asleep and partially awake. Scientists still debate the exact trigger. Some theories suggest a glitch, a failed switch between sleep stages. Others believe it's a survival holdover from our evolutionary past, when sudden threats might have required movement before waking fully. There's beauty in that thought, that somewhere inside you are still protecting yourself, still wired for storms, even if you now sleep under ceilings and stars no longer roar outside your cave. Did you know that during sleepwalking, your heart rate and respiration remain in deep sleep mode? Slow, rhythmic, almost meditative, but your limbs act like they're in the middle of the day. It's like watching two films layered on top of each other, one still and serene, the other in motion. Some researchers even call this a dissociation within the brain, a temporary uncoupling. Your mind doesn't simply go dark, it rearranges its lighting. Some rooms stay dim, others flicker to life. And then you move. But it's not random. Studies show that sleepwalkers often follow familiar paths down hallways, into kitchens, toward doors. Rarely do they wander into the unknown. It's like their unconscious mind craves the comfort of the known, the remembered. Even asleep, the body seeks safety. Here's a quirky tidbit. Sleepwalkers can sometimes bypass obstacles with eerie precision. There are stories of people stepping over pets, unlocking doors, even preparing food, all while technically unconscious. One man made a sandwich, another turned on the television, changed the channel, and sat down, cross-legged on the floor, all while asleep. None of them remembered. It raises questions that blur the line between neuroscience and philosophy. If you perform complex tasks without awareness, who exactly is in charge? Where does the you go when the body keeps functioning? Some propose that there are layers of consciousness, like strata beneath the ocean. The uppermost layer, the one that remembers names and makes shopping lists, goes offline, but a deeper self, more primal, remains lit, a pilot on standby, navigating not with thought but with memory, instinct and rhythm. Is that the truest version of you, or is it just another shadow? No one fully agrees, but there's one consensus. Sleepwalking is not dangerous in itself. The real risk lies in the environment. Open windows, stairs, sharp corners, and so care becomes essential. Not panic, not confinement, but soft protection. You cannot wake a sleepwalker safely. Doing so can trigger confusion, even aggression, not because they mean harm, but because the mind, pulled too suddenly from sleep's deep well, does not know how to catch up. So the advice is always the same: guide gently, steer without speaking if you can, return them to bed like setting a stone back into the stream. They will flow again. Now imagine this in your own body. You are lying still, muscles relaxed, breath steady. And suddenly, as if pulled by invisible threads, you rise. Your eyes may be open, but you do not see. Not truly. You turn down a hallway you've walked 1,000 times. Each footstep is placed with instinctive memory. You do not trip, you do not pause, but you are not awake either. You are in between. Not quite here, not quite gone. Your hand rests on a doorknob. For a moment it feels like the most important object in the universe. You turn it slowly. The door creaks open. Beyond it, darkness, but not frightening, just there. Your feet carry you forward, maybe to the kitchen, maybe just into the hallway to stare at a light that's always been too bright. You do not ask why. You do not need to. Your body already knows what your mind cannot hold. And then with no signal, no voice, no cue, you return. Back through the corridor, back into the bed, back under the blanket, which feels warmer now, like it's been waiting for you. You do not remember, but your body sighs like a story just ended. And somewhere deep inside, beneath logic, beneath language, you feel complete. You're resting again, warm, weightless, wrapped in layers of invisible thought. But something lingers from before, like the scent of a dream you can't name, the body that walks without waking, the hands that reach in darkness. So now, you begin to wonder, who are these unconscious wanderers? Why do some people rise at night, while others remain perfectly still? Let's drift deeper into the mystery of the mind. Sleepwalking affects roughly 1% to 15% of the population at some point in their lives, but most common, children between the ages of 4 and 8. Yes, little night explorers. It's actually adorable and a little eerie. Children calmly rising from bed, blank-faced, navigating rooms, as if in a trance, only to be found in closets or sitting backwards on the toilet, utterly unaware. Why children? Their brains are still learning the rhythms of sleep. They dip in and out of deep sleep more suddenly, like inexperienced swimmers splashing between shallow and deep ends, and the switch that normally stops motor activity during sleep. It's not fully matured. So their bodies occasionally rise like puppets pulled by tangled strings. But in most cases, they grow out of it, just as quietly as it began. Still, sleepwalking doesn't belong only to the young. Adults experience it too, often triggered by stress, sleep deprivation, alcohol, or irregular sleep schedules. Sometimes it's linked to medications, sometimes to genetics. In fact, studies suggest that if one parent sleepwalks, there's a 45% chance the child will too. If both parents do, that rises to 60%. It runs in families, like curly hair or stubbornness. There's even a rare condition known as sexsomnia, a form of parasomnia that's the larger family of sleep disorders, where individuals engage in intimate behavior while asleep, complex, delicate, sometimes distressing. The law still hasn't quite caught up to how to classify such moments of unconscious behavior. And yes, this has been used as a legal defense. That's another odd place we'll drift into soon, the courtroom. But for now, let's stay soft. Here's a curious tidbit. In one documented case, a woman was found sleepwalking with her eyes closed. She maneuvered through furniture, opened a door, and walked outside without sight. So how did she navigate? Some researchers think the brain retains spatial memory, even while unconscious, like a phantom map burned into the mind. Think about it. You know how to walk through your bedroom in total darkness, don't you? That's procedural memory. Not thinking, not guessing, just doing. And that's likely what guides the sleepwalker, these etched routines, these well-worn paths carved by repetition. It's as if your body says, I've done this 1,000 times. I don't need you right now. Comforting and humbling. You stir not always required. But this isn't just about movement. It's about layers of you, waking you, dreaming you, walking you. And in rare moments, all three blur. Imagine it. You fall asleep one evening, mind full of tomorrow's errands. Then, an hour later, you're standing in the backyard in your pajamas staring at the stars. And when morning comes, you find grass on your feet. No memory, just the sense that you've been somewhere. Maybe that sips the most mysterious part. Not the movement, but the missing. Whole nights that disappear like pages torn from a journal. Yet your body remembers. A scraped toe, a turned-down lamp, the faint smell of peanut butter on your pillow. Sleepwalking is not just a behavior. It's an echo, a whisper from the parts of you that operate when you're not looking. And some scientists believe this subconscious behavior may hold insights into consciousness itself. Why? Because it shows that awareness and action are not always married, that motion can exist without motive, that you do not need to be you to do very human things. Still, we try to label it, classify it, control it. But how do you control a ghost you never met? You don't set. You prepare the room, you gently protect the body. You let the night unfold, and you wonder, Wonder about those people who've driven cars while asleep. Yes, cars. It's rare but real, documented. They navigate turns, obey traffic lights, and wake up miles away with no idea how they got there. Or the chef who, asleep, cooked bacon and eggs and served them. Or the artist who painted. Sleepwalkers don't sit, just move. They create. As if the soul, when unchained from thought, still yearns to leave a mark. Could that be true of you? If you stepped out of sleep tonight, what would your deeper self choose to do? Where would your feet take you? Would you wander familiar halls, or step into the moonlight and simply listen? To the crickets, to the hum of the power lines, to the voice inside that only speaks when the rest of you is silent. Sleepwalking, after all, is not only a disorder, it is a window, a nocturnal experiment, a private stage where your unconscious rehearses. What? We still don't scent. No. Maybe we never will. But maybe, just maybe, it's not meant to be understood, just followed. Like a trail of breadcrumbs through the dark. You feel it now, that tug beneath your ribs. A thread of curiosity, delicate but insistent, pulling you forward through this landscape of shadows and silent steps. Where do these strange wanderings lead? And what happens when science collides with something so unexplainably human? Let's walk a little further into the most surreal courtroom drama your dreaming mind can conjure. Because believe it or not, sleepwalking has become a defense in murder trials. Yes, murder. The year was 1987. The place, Toronto, Canada. A man named Kenneth Parks, a devoted husband and father, only 23 years old, drove 14 miles to his in-laws' house in the middle of the night. He strangled his father-in-law. He bludgeoned and stabbed his mother-in-law to death. And then he drove to the police station and turned himself in. His hands were covered in blood. He was in shock, but here sits the haunting part. He said he had no idea what he had done. Sleep specialists examined him. His EEG readings showed unusual patterns, suggestive of parasomnia, and eventually, the jury believed he had been sleepwalking. He was acquitted. It sounds like a story written for a Netflix thriller, but it's very real. And it raises the question, if you act without awareness, are you responsible? Philosophers, neuroscientists, and lawyers have debated this for decades. Because sleepwalking challenges a core idea in law, mens rea, the guilty mind. Without it, without intent, is there truly guilt? And yet, doesn't state a body still do harm? Sleepwalking forces us to reconsider the boundary between intention and action, between innocence and danger, between dreamer and criminal. Here it's another eerie tidbit. In 2001, a man named Jules Lowe in Manchester, England, beat his father to death. He claimed to have no memory of the event. His sleep history showed long-standing parasomnia. The court found him not guilty by reason of insanity. He was institutionalized, but not imprisoned. It's unsettling, but also illuminating, because these cases show just how disconnected our actions can be from conscious control, and that terrifies people. It should. Not because we're all capable of harm, but because we realize that we are not always at the wheel. You, for instance, are likely a gentle, thoughtful soul. But what if your deepest self, the you without you, holds something darker, or stranger, or simply other? Would you want to know? Or would you rather let sleep carry it off like a tide? There is beauty in this too. A patient once sleepwalked through her home and was found brushing her daughter's hair tenderly while murmuring lullabies. When asked about it, she had no memory. But the daughter remembered. She seemed like an angel, she said, like a ghost made of love. We often think of sleepwalking as eerie or dangerous, but in truth it may simply be another facet of the human experience. A window into the duality of mind and body. The court system wrestles with it. Science pokes at it. Science pokes at it. And you get to feel it. This strange marvel of unconscious intention. Imagine standing in front of a judge saying, "I didn't mean to, I was asleep." And imagine a world where that could be both true and forgivable. Sleep science is helping us understand the mechanisms behind such behavior. The partial arousals from deep NREM sleep, the activation of motor areas while the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, remains off. You stir moving, but not choosing. A biological ghost. Some researchers have even mapped sleepwalking episodes in real time using functional MRI. It's fascinating. The cerebellum lights up, that's your coordination center, as does the limbic system, your emotional engine, while the frontal lobes remain dark. The brain is fragmented, like a dream in pieces, a dream that walks. And dreams, are rarely held accountable. So maybe sleepwalking is a dream set free, a shadow play your body performs in place of you. And perhaps that's why courts struggle to define it. Is it a disease? A defense? Or simply the cost of being human, of carrying this beautiful, bewildering mind that sometimes forgets to stay tethered? Tonight, as you rest, consider this. There are places inside you that still believe in walking, still trust the feet, even when the eyes are closed. Would you follow them, if you could? Would you step barefoot into the hallway of your unconscious, just to see where it leads? Maybe not, but maybe you already have. The hallway stretches before you, cool floor beneath your bare feet, shadows whispering along the walls. But you're not alone here. There are others who walk this same path. Children, many of them. Yes, sleepwalking is most common in children, especially between the ages of 4 and 8. Strange, isn't it? This unconscious wandering so often begins at the very edge of memory. You imagine a small figure padding softly through a dim house, hair tousled, pajamas askew, hands outstretched, as if reaching for a memory not quite formed. A child sleepwalking is both innocent and eerie, like a poem being written in real time by a dream that can't spell. And while adults tend to associate it with stress or trauma, for children, it's often just the way their brain is growing. One theory: their immature central nervous systems simply struggle to transition smoothly between sleep stages. Another, that deep NREM sleep where sleepwalking starts, is more intense during childhood, especially when they're overtired or feverish. Their little minds, still stitching together reality, sometimes let the body off its leash. It's harmless, mostly, often ends with the child simply standing in the kitchen trying to butter a shoe. But there are moments too, when it veers into the surreal. One mother recalls finding her 6-year-old son sitting upright on the couch, laughing softly. When she asked what was funny, he replied, "The ceiling people are singing again." And then he curled up and fell asleep. The ceiling people never returned. But she never forgot. Sleepwalking in childhood has that quality, part magical, part mysterious. Like the brain is rehearsing for something important, but no one gave it a script. And then, most children grow out of it. Their nervous systems mature, their sleep architecture stabilizes. They stop wandering. But you wonder, where did those pathways go? The ones that led them into kitchens, backyards, even snow-covered lawns under full moons? Did the brain brick them over? Or are they still there, dormant, waiting for some emotional earthquake to crack the walls? Sometimes, adults who sleepwalk had no history of it as children. Other times it returns in times of upheaval, loss, exhaustion, change. A form of regression, maybe? Or maybe it's just that some parts of the brain remember the secret passages. One particularly fascinating case: a 30-year-old woman who began sleepwalking after her divorce. She'd find herself on the porch, barefoot, shivering. A therapist asked, "Do you think your body is looking for something your mind can sit?" She said, "Maybe I sip 'em looking for the life I lost." Or maybe it sips more than that. Maybe our bodies are built with an instinct to move, even when the conscious mind has gone quiet, like a child's need for comfort, replayed in adult form. And here's a gentle twist: not all sleepwalkers are wanderers. Some are builders. One child was discovered silently constructing Lego towers in the dark. Another, repeatedly trying to pack a suitcase. Where were they going? Who knows? But there's something heartbreakingly human in that act. The desire to carry, to prepare, to build something even in sleep. In that sense, maybe children teach us something adults forget: that sleepwalking isn't always escape. Sometimes it's longing, curiosity, the body's attempt to play without the mind's heavy rules. Now pause for a moment and picture a glowing nightlight. Picture a hallway full of tiny footsteps, leading in looping circles, the echo of soft giggles, a teddy bear dropped mid-step. Childhood sleepwalking is a reminder that even in our most unconscious moments, we are storytelling creatures. And every footstep, even a sleeping one, might be part of a story we just haven't remembered yet. Tonight, as you drift off, let part of your mind become that child. Not lost, just exploring. Without fear, without map, following a melody only they can hear. The world outside your window slumbers, mostly unaware of the silent dramas unfolding in bedrooms everywhere, but behind drawn curtains and closed eyes, there are those who do not sleep still. You are one of them now, or could be, because this is where we explore the unconscious theatre of adult sleepwalking, a realm both mysterious and misunderstood. You shift slightly in bed as if your body remembers something your mind does not. Most people think sleepwalking is just a childhood phase, and for many, it is. But for others, it returns, or never left. In adults, sleepwalking often becomes something stranger, more elaborate, more shadowed. The lines blur between dreams and actions, emotions and movements, safety and danger. Imagine this. A man wakes up in the garden, kneeling in the dirt, hands full of pebbles. He has no memory of how he got there. Later, he remembers dreaming about building a well for someone he loved. And what does it mean? We don't know. That's the beautiful, maddening part. Sleep science tells us that adult sleepwalking may be linked to sleep deprivation, stress, alcohol, medications, or even genetic wiring. The brain becomes confused during deep NREM sleep, caught halfway between paralysis and activity. But here's the part that tingles your spine. Adult sleepwalkers often exhibit purposeful behavior. They cook. They rearrange furniture. Some even drive. Yes, drive. There are verified cases of people getting into their cars and navigating the roads in a sleepwalking state. One woman made it 22 kilometers before waking up, pulled over by confused police, barefoot and blinking in the dawn. Scientists are still puzzled. How can such complex motor skills activate without conscious awareness? One theory is that certain deep brain regions responsible for habit, movement and memory stay online during sleepwalking episodes, while higher reasoning is completely offline, like a ship running on autopilot, no captain in sight. But sometimes the autopilot isn't set so benign. Some adult sleepwalkers exhibit aggression, not because they're violent, but because their sleeping brain misinterprets shadows, sounds, or imagined threats. One man reportedly tried to defend his wife from a phantom intruder while still asleep, smashing a lamp against the wall. When he woke, he wept. Not out of guilt, out of fear that his own mind had betrayed him. And that's the tender, frightening truth about adult sleepwalking. It often emerges in periods of deep emotional turmoil. Breakups, job losses, grief. One man only sleepwalked during the week of his father's funeral. He would rise in the dark and walk to the front porch, sitting in silence, as if waiting for someone who would not return. His wife said, he was sleepwalking through grief. And maybe she was right. Maybe the adult sleepwalker is simply someone who hasn't finished saying goodbye, or someone who's still looking for a piece of themselves they lost in waking life. Some experts believe sleepwalking in adulthood is an unresolved tension, an unspoken emotion trying to walk itself out. Others suggest it might be a form of dissociative behavior, a safety valve for pressure too great to release in daylight. Still others, they think we carry ancestral memories in our bones, that perhaps sleepwalking is a holdover from a time when we had to move at night, to escape, to forage, to survive. You wonder, could your midnight wandering be something older than you? Could it be part of the dream your DNA keeps retelling? Softly now, let that question hang in the darkness, like a paper lantern. There's another curiosity here. Adult sleepwalkers sometimes develop rituals, patterns they repeat each night. Touching a window, opening the fridge, checking door locks in a specific order. Almost like the body is performing an unconscious liturgy, trying to soothe itself, trying to remember, or forget. And while some fear these episodes, others find them oddly beautiful. One woman describes waking in the middle of folding her laundry at 3 a.m. She hadn't meant to, but there she was, dream-draped towels in hand. I think part of me was trying to feel useful, she said. Maybe that's what adult sleepwalking is, a quiet protest against helplessness, a way the body says, I may not know what's wrong, but I refuse to be still. And so it moves, not toward danger, but toward meaning, even if it doesn't know the way. So if you've ever woken in a hallway, a kitchen, a backyard, unsure of how you arrived, take a breath. You're not broken. You surd, just in motion, even in your sleep. Your body is still now, but your thoughts continue their gentle tumble, like socks in a dryer of dreams. We've traveled far in this journey, but the road turns darker here, not sinister, but shadowed. We enter now the realm of night terrors and violent sleepwalking, a haunting intersection where fear takes physical form. You are safe, of course. You are always safe here, but others are not always so lucky. Night terrors are not nightmares. That's important. You've had nightmares, bad dreams with villains, stress, school exams you never studied for. But night terrors, these erupt from the deepest part of sleep, stage 3 NREM, also called slow wave sleep, the place where sleepwalking is born. Imagine this. A man bolts upright, eyes wide, gasping like he's drowning in air. His heart thunders. He screams. He claws at something invisible, something only he can see. But here's the unsettling part. He never wakes up. He'll have no memory of it in the morning, no story to tell, just a sore throat and confused family. You might think, that sounds like a panic attack, but it's deeper, stranger, like a ghost in the nervous system is pulling the strings. Sleep researchers suspect that night terrors and violent sleepwalking share a common root, a fragmented arousal where parts of the brain snap awake, while others remain sedated in sleep. It's like a house where the kitchen lights are on, the garage door is open, and the living room is playing static, but no one's home. In children, night terrors are more common and usually harmless, but in adults, that sits when things get more complicated. There are documented cases of people injuring themselves or others during these episodes. Windows mistaken for doors. Beds mistaken for boats in stormy seas. One man jumped from a second-story window during a terror episode, convinced he was escaping a fire. His mind invented a crisis to match the panic within. He survived, but not everyone does. And yet, despite all the chaos and drama, this isn't a monster story. It sets a human story, because night terrors often reflect what we bury: deep anxiety, unresolved trauma, even PTSD. The sleeping brain doesn't speak in words, it speaks in instinct. If it senses fear, it creates escape. If it feels cornered, it may lash out. And it's not the conscious you doing this, it's your protective wiring misfiring in the dark. One of the most fascinating things. Some people cry during these episodes, deep, racking sobs, while still asleep. Sleep researchers have witnessed this, and you wonder what sorrow runs so deep that it leaks into the body's movements without permission. Some scientists think night terrors could be the sleeping brain's emergency vent, a primal howl from the cave of your mind, a pressure release valve for unspoken fear. Others argue it's neurological, misfires in the thalamus, disruptions in arousal circuits, fragments of the amygdala dancing alone in the dark. But here's the poetic truth. No one agrees entirely. Night terrors remain one of the last true mysteries in sleep science. We know they exist, we know their outlines, but their root, still shrouded in shadow, there sets a gentler side too. Some sleepwalkers report entering states of emotional vulnerability, not terror but melancholy, quiet sobbing, murmured apologies, reaching for a hand that isn't there. One woman rose every night and sat at the dining table, whispering old lullabies she sang to her daughter who had long since grown and moved away. She didn't remember, but her daughter did, and it changed their relationship. Because sometimes sleepwalking and night terrors reveal what the waking self can't express. Loneliness, longing, love. There are even spiritual interpretations. Some cultures believe night terrors are a form of soul travel gone wrong, that your spirit briefly forgets the route back to your body, and your body panics in its absence. Others say it's ancestral memory leaking through, echoes of survival instinct, of nights when staying still could mean death. Are these explanations true? Who can say? But they offer a kind of comfort. state, that even our darkest nights might have meaning. So what do you do if you or someone you love suffers from these storms of the subconscious? Doctors recommend a few things. Keep a consistent sleep schedule. Avoid stimulants and alcohol. Create a safe environment, remove sharp objects, lock windows, use door alarms if needed. But most importantly, treat the mind with compassion, because the person in the throes of a night terror is not violent. They are afraid. Afraid in a way they can explain. Afraid in a way their waking self may never understand. And you lie still now, thinking of all the invisible storms people face each night, the wars they fight in silence, the fears that walk beside them through moonlight and shadow. You surd, not alone. Not in this, not in any of it. You've wandered far tonight, and now your footsteps slow. The landscape of the sleeping mind changes again, less stormy now, but no less strange. We arrive at the mystical edges of memory, where sleepwalking becomes entangled with amnesia, déjà vu, and whispers of past lives. You didn't expect this turn, did you? But dream journeys always detour. Picture this. A woman sleepwalks to a piano and plays a tune she never learned. Her fingers move with fluidity, notes pouring like water, but she swears she's never touched a keyboard awake. Or a man who, during a nocturnal episode, scribbles notes in fluent Italian. He doesn't speak Italian. He's never been to Italy, yet the words are there, written clearly, like fragments of another self bleeding through. You think this can be real. But cases like these are documented, not always dramatic, but often just uncanny enough to stir something inside you. There's a term for this phenomenon: automatic behaviors. It's when the body performs tasks it's done before, long ago, deep in procedural memory, even if the mind isn't present. Some researchers believe sleepwalkers can tap into these deep memory reservoirs, those ingrained routines stored in the basal ganglia and cerebellum, like ghosts of habit drifting up through the mist. But what if it sets more than just habit? Some psychologists have studied people who during sleepwalking episodes speak in languages they haven't used in decades, childhood tongues, forgotten dialects, voices from grandparents long gone. It's not always flawless, but it's strangely precise, like a dusty box in the attic has been opened without the conscious self's permission. Is this just memory, or something deeper? Some dream theorists whisper about liminal consciousness, the idea that sleepwalking exists in a twilight zone between waking logic and dream intuition. That in these moments, your soul walks alongside you, not separated, not ascended, just shifted. One step to the left of the reality. Consider this. Sleepwalkers almost never remember their own journeys, but sometimes they wake up with feelings, residue, like emotional fingerprints. A woman wakes sobbing after a sleepwalking episode. She doesn't know why, but all morning she feels homesick for a place she's never been. A man wakes with dirt on his feet and a calm heart. He has no idea what he did, but for the first time in months, his anxiety is gone. What did they experience? We may never know. Some scientists suggest that sleepwalking could act as a dream catharsis, a purging of emotional energy through motion, like how wolves pace when caged, like how dancers spin grief into beauty. In certain dream traditions, particularly in ancient Tibetan sleep yoga, movement during sleep is seen as a spiritual signal, a journey beyond the physical realm, a rehearsal for death, a reunion with what was forgotten. And if that sounds poetic, that sits because it is. Poetry and sleep have always been friends. But back to science for a moment. Did you know that EEG scans of sleepwalkers show strange patterns? Some regions of the brain are in deep sleep, while others are awake. It's like your body is caught in a tug-of-war between different dimensions of consciousness. A team in Switzerland once mapped this with fMRI, watching live as a subject transitioned into a sleepwalking state. Their conclusion: the mind does not sleep uniformly. It dreams in layers. You lie there now, thinking, how many layers do I have? What memories have I forgotten? What forgotten skills, stories, emotions might live inside your sleeping form? Maybe you too have wandered hallways in dreams. Maybe you've murmured a name in your sleep, a name you didn't recognize, but that still felt real. You think of the ship of Theseus. If your mind forgets a memory, but your body remembers. Are you still the same you? Maybe we sit made of more than just thoughts. Maybe our bodies carry their own wisdom, stored like fossils beneath the skin. And maybe during sleepwalking, those buried truths rise to walk for a while. So next time you wake up unsure, with the covers tangled and the window cracked open, ask gently, "Who walked in my place last night? Was it an echo of me? Or a message? Or just movement? The kind that heals in silence." You don't need an answer, only the question. Because the beauty of sleep is that it forgives the need to know. The hallway darkens once more, and your breathing slows. You're deep into the night now, beyond the whispers of memory and into the realm where sleepwalking meets danger. Not the kind of danger with fangs or flames. No, this danger is quieter, more absurd, and more human. You've likely heard of stories, people who drive cars while sleepwalking, who climb onto rooftops, who cook full meals, who leave the house in the dead of night, completely unaware. How can this happen? Let's trace it. When your brain slips into non-REM stage 3 sleep, motor control isn't entirely off. The thalamus, the brain's relay center, is filtering stimuli, but it's still open enough to let the body respond to familiar patterns. Add to that a heightened autonomic system, blood pressure, adrenaline, and you've got a recipe for movement. Not frantic, not conscious, but real. There was a case in Canada where a man drove 14 miles in his sleep. He even obeyed traffic laws. When questioned, he had no memory, none, of ever leaving his bed. And yet, he ended up at his in-laws' house. With a hammer. The law didn't know what to do. Sleepwalking, after all, is a legal grey space. Are you responsible for what your unconscious body does? Courts have struggled with this for decades. There are documented cases of homicidal somnambulism. Yes, people committing violent acts in their sleep. It's rare, deeply rare, but it happens. Is it sleepwalking? Is it dissociation? Is it an elaborate cover story? Even experts argue. There's no blood test for consciousness. No MRI that can prove you weren't you when something happened. Philosophers get tangled here too. If a person acts without awareness, are they morally culpable? Or are we all just passengers sometimes, gripping a wheel we think we control? You shift beneath your blanket, suddenly aware of your own vulnerability. Is the self really stable? Or is it always one sleep-deprived day away from unraveling? Humor helps here. It always does. There's a viral video of a sleepwalker running into a closet, convinced it's a bathroom. His confusion is pure comedy. Or the story of a teenager who ordered 12 pizzas in his sleep, woke up with no cash and a very amused delivery driver. Even dogs sleepwalk. You Google sleepwalking dog jumps into wall. I dare you. Laughter is our shield against the unknown. And when it comes to sleepwalking, the unknown is vast. Here's a quirky tidbit. In medieval Europe, sleepwalking was sometimes interpreted as demonic possession or moon sickness. People would place bowls of water at doorways to trap the spirit before it could leave. Others believed a sleepwalker should never be woken, lest their soul be jolted back too hard. Modern science says otherwise. Waking a sleepwalker isn't dangerous, but it is disorienting. Most will blink, panic, then collapse into fatigue, their eyes open, but their mind arrives late. And sometimes, not at all. One woman kept waking up in hotel lobbies. She'd gone to sleep in her room, yet security footage showed her stepping into elevators with a blank face, every night at 3:12 a.m. Why 3:12? No one knows. Maybe her body knew something she didn't set. This is the haunting mystery of sleepwalking, intent without awareness. Your body moves with purpose, opens doors, navigates obstacles, sometimes even speaks. But the you inside, absent. Like the lights are on but nobody's home, and yet the house is busy. One theory suggests that sleepwalking might be an evolutionary leftover, a defense system. Early humans may have developed the ability to sleep lightly and still act in case of threats. Imagine a predator near the cave entrance. A half-sleeping body stirs, gets up, closes the gate. No full awakening required. It sips primal, efficient, protective. But in our modern world, the risks have shifted. Balconies, roads, knives, chemicals. And so the same mechanisms that once helped us survive now make us vulnerable in suburbia. Sleep researchers now recommend simple precautions: motion alarms, bedroom locks, padded floors. It's not sexy science, but it's necessary. Still, as eerie as these behaviors are, most sleepwalking episodes are harmless and gentle. A slow shuffle, a murmured phrase, a misplaced slipper. Often the only casualty is a bruised shin or a confused pet. You imagine yourself sleepwalking now, silent, barefoot, drifting past the refrigerator at 2:27 a.m. Eyes glazed, heart steady. Maybe you're looking for something. Maybe you find it. Maybe that sip's all it is. A journey inside the maze of your own house, of your own self. Because what is danger really when you're dreaming? Sometimes it's just the edge of knowing, brushed by accident. You feel safe here, tucked in, wandering only in words. And as we drift further, we'll meet the myths and meanings, the deeper stories that cultures tell about those who walk without waking. But that sip's coming soon. For now, close your eyes and smile at the absurdity of the man with the hammer, the girl with the pizzas, and the shadow version of you who maybe, just maybe, opened that door last night. Outside the quiet edges of your consciousness, myths begin to stir. Sleepwalking, this strange twilight behavior, has long been interpreted not just by science but by stories. Every culture has its version, every people, their symbols and fears. In ancient Greece, sleepwalkers were thought to be touched by the gods. Sacred, even, to move in sleep was to be between realms, part mortal, part divine. You picture it now, marble columns, moonlight spilling through fig trees, and a robed figure wandering barefoot across a stone courtyard. Was he praying, possessed, or simply dreaming with open eyes? In medieval Europe, the myth shifted. Sleepwalkers were feared. Some believed they were witches, souls that had left their bodies to conspire with spirits. Cattle would sicken, wells would dry, and there, under the window's gaze, a woman would be seen walking, head tilted to the stars. Superstition, yes, but also poetry. Because to walk while unconscious is both a marvel and a terror. It speaks of mysteries we still can't decode. In India, sleepwalking has ties to karma, actions carried over from past lives. Your body remembers, even when you do not. A man who paces the hallway at night might be retracing steps from centuries ago, searching for something lost. And in Japan, there's the old tale of yore, wandering spirits bound by unresolved emotions. Not quite sleepwalkers, but close enough. Echoes of longing that refuse to sleep. You breathe deeper now, lulled by these dream tales. One quirky story tells of Napoleon Bonaparte himself, sleepwalking before major battles, eyes wide open, barking commands in a trance. His aides reportedly followed him, noting his movements like divine prophecy. Can you imagine? The Emperor of Europe in silk pajamas planning war in his sleep. Science says no evidence supports this, but the story lingers because we want to believe. There's something delicious about the idea that even the powerful are not fully in control, that beneath armor and logic, we are all soft-skinned sleepwalkers under the moon. Modern pop culture hasn't set let go either. From Shakespeare sets, Lady Macbeth, Out, Damned Spot, to episodes of sitcoms where characters steal cheese in their sleep. The theme persists. The body rebels. The mind splits. The heart reveals what it hides in daylight. And it isn't just entertainment, it's also cautionary. There's a theory that dreams, and by extension sleepwalking, let us rehearse real-life scenarios. Evolutionary psychologist Antti Revonsuo proposed the threat simulation theory, suggesting dreams evolve to help us practice survival. A tiger chases you. Good. Next time you'll be faster. So when your body acts out a strange routine in the night, maybe it's training for something. Maybe it's remembering an ancient fear, or rehearsing a moment yet to come. Some scientists disagree. They argue that sleepwalking is random motor noise, a hiccup of the brain's inhibitory systems, just like a printer spitting out gibberish when its drivers are corrupted. No poetry, no prophecy, just glitches. But isn't it that debate itself part of the magic? You're floating now between poles, mechanism, and meaning. Is your midnight self a ghost of past lives, or just your nervous system throwing a tantrum? Do you walk in your sleep because your body remembers something your mind does not? Or is it all coincidence? Unconscious muscle twitches and a poorly placed bedroom lamp? The truth is probably both. There's always beauty in the gaps between answers. A gentle moment here. There was a boy in Norway who used to sleepwalk into the forest. Each time he was found under the same birch tree, humming a tune no one could name. When asked, he said it was the song the stars sang to him. He grew out of it eventually. But sometimes, when he's tired, he still hears it. You pull the blanket closer. There's something comforting about these stories. Not just the sleepwalkers, but the people who watched over them. The parents, the partners, the neighbors who gently turned them around, guided them back to bed. It speaks of community care, a village instinct to guard the wanderer. Because sleepwalking reminds us that we are not always in control. And when we aren't, we need others to keep us safe. That sips a soft truth, one worth keeping. And now as the myths dissolve into the early edges of morning thought, we still drift toward deeper questions. Where does identity go when we sleep? And when the body walks without the soul, who exactly is it? But let's not ask that too loudly yet. For now, just float with the stories. Let the old myths wrap around you like a shawl of silver thread. And if you ever wake up standing in the hallway, heart steady, feet cold, maybe you still remember this. You're not lost, just wandering. Just like the rest of us, you stir in the cradle of your thoughts, gently rocked by the breath of the universe, and wonder what really happens inside your brain during these midnight wanderings. Imagine this. You're lying peacefully in bed, your eyes are closed. Consciousness dissolves like ink in water, but behind your skull, your brain is running a secret show. It begins in the deep stages of non-REM sleep, particularly stage 3, known as slow wave sleep. This is the heavy, restorative kind of slumber, where your breathing slows, your blood pressure drops, and your muscles fully relax. And yet, paradoxically, this is when most sleepwalking happens. You might think that in such deep sleep, nothing could rouse you, not even your own limbs. But the brain is complicated. It doesn't always turn off in unison. Some regions, especially those related to movement, can activate, while areas linked to conscious awareness stay asleep. It's like trying to power down a spaceship, only to have the engines rev while the lights go out. Scientists call this a state of dissociation, a splitting of systems. Your motor cortex sends out signals, while your prefrontal cortex, the reasoning part, snoozes through it. The result? A body that rises, walks, even eats, while the mind floats in oblivion. A sleepwalker might move with purpose, turning doorknobs, descending stairs, yet have no conscious memory of it afterward. But why does this happen? One theory says it's a genetic glitch, a hereditary predisposition that affects how the brain transitions between sleep stages. If your parents or siblings sleepwalk, you're more likely to do it too. Another possibility, stress, sleep deprivation, or fevers can all increase the likelihood of a sleepwalking episode. It's as though your brain, overburdened, forgets how to stay asleep properly. A door creaks open, the unconscious slips out for a stroll. Here's a curious tidbit. Some people sleepwalk with astonishing complexity. They've been documented driving cars, writing notes, even playing instruments. One man reportedly got dressed, walked 3 blocks to his office and returned home, only to wake up with no idea how he got there. It's like being haunted by your own body. And here's where it gets even stranger. Sleepwalkers are hard to wake. They may seem alert, their eyes open, limbs responsive, but neurologically they're still in deep sleep. Try to wake them, and you might be met with confusion, resistance, or even aggression. This is why experts often say don't wake a sleepwalker. Instead, gently guide them back to bed. Unless, of course, they're walking toward danger. Then, safety comes first. But remember this gentle paradox. While they appear awake, they are in a state more asleep than awake. A shadow self, a dreaming body on autopilot. Let sets linger for a moment with a question. If you can move, speak, and act while unconscious, what then defines your true self? Are you the waking mind, the sleeping instincts, the memory afterward? Sleep science doesn't offer simple answers. It hands you mysteries wrapped in EEG readings and shrugs with a sleepy smile. There is also an emotional component. Some researchers suggest that emotional conflict, especially in children, can trigger sleepwalking. Not trauma, necessarily, but emotional overflow, like a cup of tea filled too high, spilling out as motion in the night. It's poetic, in a way. Your heart trying to speak through your feet. Maybe you get up at night not because you're broken, but because you're overflowing. That sips a comforting thought. Isn't it? That the sleepwalker is not lost, just emotionally saturated. Sometimes, sleepwalking is tied to other parasomnias, like night terrors or confusional arousals. These aren't dreams, they're more primal, rooted in fear and instinct. A child may scream, thrash, run eyes wide, face pale, and never recall a thing. To see it is unnerving, but it passes. Doctors can treat severe cases with scheduled awakenings, medication, or even hypnosis, though that's rare. But for most, sleepwalking is harmless, odd, mysterious, but not dangerous. Unless, of course, you sleepwalk near a staircase, or an open window, or a memory. Yes, some people report that sleepwalking episodes coincide with buried feelings, grief, longing, regret. The timing is often uncanny, as if your subconscious chooses those moments deep in the night when no one is watching to whisper through your muscles, to move the body because the voice is too quiet. You shift gently in your blanket. What do you carry silently through your sleep? What steps are you rehearsing in the halls of your mind? Sleepwalking reminds us, not all journeys are made with awareness. Some are stitched in silence, mapped in moonlight. And maybe, just maybe, the parts of you that walk in the dark are the truest parts of all. So next time you hear soft footsteps at night, don't fear them. Listen. They might just be you, remembering something your mind has forgotten. A ritual, a grief, a dream too big for the waking world. Somewhere between silence and movement, you linger in that suspended place, where memory, muscle, and mystery fold into one another. Let's take a slow breath together now, because this is where things get blurry. You may wonder, do sleepwalkers dream? It's a beautiful and complicated question, one that still slips through the fingers of science. Typically, dreaming is most vivid during REM sleep, a phase distinct from the non-REM stages where sleepwalking occurs, so in theory the two shouldn't overlap. But as we've seen, the brain rarely follows the rules. Some researchers suggest that sleepwalkers may experience dreamlike fragments during their episodes, visual impressions or emotional shadows that influence their unconscious actions. Not full stories, not coherent plots, but feelings that shape movement. Fear, desire, longing. You don't dream and sleepwalk, necessarily. You dream into the sleepwalk. A kind of waking dream with your eyes open and your thoughts turned off. Imagine a woman who wakes in the hallway, holding her childhood teddy bear, or a man who finds himself cooking a long-forgotten family recipe at 2 a.m., weeping softly unaware. These aren't set just accidents of biology. They set echoes. Emotional blueprints surfacing through muscle memory, the body remembering when the mind cannot. There's an ongoing debate about the role of the amygdala, the brain's emotional control center, in these episodes. Some scientists think sleepwalkers have a heightened reactivity in this area, especially under stress. It's as if their emotional radar stays on high alert, even when consciousness powers down. A constant watchtower scanning the night for danger, or meaning. Sleepwalking may also serve a purpose we don't fully understand yet. Evolutionarily, it doesn't seem efficient. Why would a vulnerable human rise during deep sleep when they're least alert and expose themselves to risk? Unless, of course, it once wasn't set to risk. Imagine prehistoric people huddled in caves. One member stirs at the scent of smoke or sound of rustling leaves. Without waking fully, their body reacts, moves to protect the tribe. A built-in biological alarm system, acting before thought kicks in. Maybe sleepwalking is an ancient reflex, a vestige of survival. Or perhaps it's the soul's way of reminding us that the mind doesn't own all of us, that some parts move without permission, and that's okay. Quirky fact for you, the Guinness World Record for the farthest distance sleepwalked is unverified, because as you might guess, it's hard to prove. But anecdotal accounts include a woman who climbed a 130-foot crane in her sleep and had to be rescued at dawn. She survived, barefoot, asleep, balanced on steel. Sleep can be a strange sort of faith. And here's something more poetic. There are cultures where sleepwalking isn't seen as a disorder, but as a sacred journey, a time when the spirit steps out to roam unseen paths. In parts of rural Italy and Southeast Asia, legends speak of night wanderers, those chosen by dreams to walk between realms. Not sick, not disturbed, just open. There sips a gentleness to that view, isn't sit there. Instead of fearing the sleepwalker, we might protect them, watch them, wonder what world they see, because who's to say what's real and what isn't, when your mind is adrift in night? Let Seps return to that soft question again. What if sleepwalking is your body telling a story? Not with words, but steps, gestures, little rituals stitched in the dark. Stories you can sit bare to tell awake. Stories of things unresolved, of homes lost, of people gone. And when you wake up with scraped knees or crumbs on your pillow, maybe that's just the afterglow of your midnight myth-making. There's something deeply human in all of this. To rise from slumber, not to escape, but to express. You stir, not broken. You stir, just layered. You are the sleeper, the wanderer, the witness, all at once. So tonight, as you fall deeper into stillness, know that part of you might stir, might rise, might walk. But don't worry. The world is softer than it seems at 3 a.m. And if you do rise, may your steps be safe. May your mind be kind. And may your heart know that it's okay to move through the night in search of things you can't name yet. Because even in your unconscious wanderings, you are whole. And now, we arrive gently at the quiet shore of our journey. There sits nothing left to do but breathe. Not even deeply, just enough to feel the world around you soften. Your eyelids are a little heavier. The room around you quieter than before. You follow the arc of the unknown through science, mystery, and shadowed halls of sleep. And now you're here, held by gravity, cradled by the dark. Let go of the story now. Let it dissolve like a dream. Maybe a part of you will walk again tonight. Or maybe you'll remain still, curled into the soft architecture of your sheets. Either way, you are safe. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders loosen. There is no place to be but here. No time but now. You've learned something beautiful tonight. Not just about the science of sleepwalking, but about yourself. About how deeply human it is to wander, even in dreams. To seek without knowing. To rise without reason. To move when the heart stirs. There sits a cosmic elegance to it. Isn't sit there. So as you drift, imagine the sky above you, not empty but woven with stardust and soft invisible paths, like the ones your feet might find tonight. If they happen to rise, sleep deeply now. Dear wanderer, the world will wait. The night is yours, and somewhere far beyond the waking mind, a door remains open, not to escape, but to become